This is the Crew First Culture podcast number 86, part two of our conversation with Ric Jorge. Thank you for joining us today. If you have not listened to part one, that is episode 84. Really suggest that you start there. He gets into a lot of his story when he was younger in his introduction, and that's going to play a big part of this part two conversation, which he digs into more of that story, the purpose of his life, and just the importance of knowing a purpose, having a mission. And so, one of my favorite conversations I've had so far, I learned so much from him. Inspired so much from him. And so, I hope that you really get a lot out of these two parts of this conversation, because it's just a really enjoyable experience for me. So thank you. I'm very happy that I get to share this with you all because it's very impactful. So thank you for joining us. I will start episode 86, part two with Ric Jorge.
Listening to your story, and you really, I would say you got into a lot more of it than I've even heard you get into in previous podcasts, and I really appreciate that. But it's interesting to me because as you're saying, as you're going through your story, I'm thinking to myself, I am literally the probably farthest opposite of you as possible, growing up, at least, that part of our lives. I never did drugs. I never drank, honestly. And you might think this is funny, but I never drank a drop of alcohol until I was 35 years old. And so, and I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that it's funny, the differences.
How come?
I was, I don't know. Okay, I do know because my wife and I have had this conversation, and we'll just get into it there, and we'll go further there. But
So let me
so
ask you why. I do this
okay,
a lot. I ask
yeah,
questions a lot. It's called Socratic. It's a Socratic method. You ask questions. And the reason is because what we're about to get into is, while you may not have had the same upbringing or the same path that I had, um, it has to do with the emotions. So mine were ruled by insecurities and inferiorities and, self-doubt and stuff, where yours may not have been. And so there's always a catalyst. There's always a something that moves
yeah.
people in specific directions. And that's why I asked why, because it's important. The why is important.
Yes. So sorry, I'm writing a note down here so I don't forget
It's
it
okay. I
because
know what you're doing, brother. It's all right. I know, not a big, I do the same thing.
uh so growing up, and before I get into that, I'll just kind of finish that thought because I think it's important, because I don't want it to seem like I'm saying, I never did anything and you are doing something. My point is, even though our stories are so different, we still have huge purpose. We are still here for such a big, so much a bigger picture than we can ever even imagine. And even though my story doesn't involve getting into trouble and being a thug, like you say, my story involves seeing, having vivid memories of, fifth or sixth grade, an ambulance at my house because my dad tried to commit suicide, and very intense and constant issues with mental health and things like that throughout my family. And we talked a little bit about it earlier, and I'm just going to brush it and we'll go back to it. But 13 years of being married to an addict, while having kids and being a firefighter, and all of these things that some are maybe similar to yours, but most of them aren't. But it doesn't matter. It matters what you do with that. And we are here for different purposes when you really dig down into it. But if you pull back to the big picture, we're here for the same purpose, and that is to help people, like you
Agreed.
said, being that servant. And so
Agreed.
I just wanted to throw that out there. It's interesting because we are all different, but we can use every single thing that we go through. But,
So your set of circumstances is different than mine, but we're the same person.
Yeah.
And that's everybody. The only reason my story's different is because it's not really different. There's a lot of guys like me in the fire service.
Yeah.
They have either gotten to the point in their life where they don't want to share about it for whatever reason. They may work in a department that frowns on that and they'll lose a job, just from actions that you did before you even got hired. And there are maybe those that they're very personal. They don't allow those types of things to be known by them, except for a very small group of people. And like I said, God has used me in so many different ways. It's like we discussed before that we started the podcast. It would be spitting into the face of a God that has blessed me with things by not sharing those things, because my purpose is to share those things. Yeah. It's part of it. Because it's using adversity to be able to show how you can overcome adversity. And it's from different walks of life, and that's what's important. That's why I asked you, why is yours? And so it has nothing to do with better than or worse than or anything like that. It's just different circumstances, like fires. Every fire is different, has its unique set of circumstances, And it's the same with firemen. And it's important to know that, you don't have to be this altruistic, my faith is strong, in the sense that I do believe in God, that I do pray, that I do meditate for his, direction for me in my life. But I'm not your run of the mill. I'm not going to be a pastor anytime soon. I don't have that temperament for that. I speak from my faith to people that I shared one time at a conference, and a pastor was in there, and he come up to me. He says, "So you profess to be a man of God?" I looked at him. I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Well, I'm a pastor." I said, "Oh, congratulations. Nice to meet you. My name's Rick." And whatever, he introduced me. He says, "For a man of God, you sure curse a lot." And I've heard this before from multiple people, and it's true. It's true. It's not a thing that's a badge that you should wear of honor. It's something that just comes out sometimes, and it's just bad behavior. It's bad learning. And I told him, I said, "Yes." I said, "That's true." I said, "Yet the Lord continues to use me." That's baffling, isn't it? And he started laughing. He did one of these, like, "That's a good one," But it's the truth. Don't be ashamed of who you are, man. You just be who you are, because you're going to help the people that need to be helped. You're going to help the people that God has placed before you for that reason. And if you miss that lesson, you miss being true to yourself, and, to thine own self be true, man. I mean, that's a big deal. But, for me, who do I serve? Who's my master? Is fear my master? Because fear's not a good master. It's a good motivator and ain't a good master. Mine is a God. That's my master. I'm not, I like money like the next person, but it ain't going to rule my life. Fear is necessary, but it ain't going to rule my life. I already know what it's like. I still, to this day, go into restaurants and sit with my back against the wall and look for the nearest exits and try to figure out, okay, if this happens, this is what we're going to do. Okay, man, I don't know if it just comes with the years of being on the job and it's a side effect, or if we were designed like that to make us good at the job.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't question it anymore, but I don't let it rule my life. Yeah. If it starts to become a problem, I got to take a deep breath and I think about it and go, "God, my life's in your hands, man. I'm not going to do this, but I'm not going to be a retard, and ignore, things that I know that I should be careful with. I don't, I live in South Florida. I carry concealed almost everywhere I go. I'm not, listen, it's a violent place, man. This is a perversion of reality in South Florida. This is not your normal type of environment, and I'm not fooled by that. I'm not fooled by that, you protect yourself, but I don't allow that to go to a level where it dominates me. And I think that's the importance. I don't think that your path, where you come from and your circumstances is as important is how you utilize them to impact your life. Because me and you,
Yep.
we're the same.
Yep.
We're the same. We're, you know, just how we got here is just a little different. Plus you're younger, you know, and we got the same kind of haircut. So
Yeah,
that's another
pretty
good thing going.
yeah. Yeah. So gotta get it back to, you know, your question, because it's a good question. I don't necessarily just enjoy talking about myself, but I love this conversation, and I feel like it's just going to enhance the conversation if I add to it. But so,
I agree.
like I said, this is something that my wife and I discussed, and because, you know, it was after I met her, and that's when I first drank something. And so anyway, I think it's like you said, it's the upbringing, it's the details that we grew up in. You know, I never ever remember seeing any kind of wine bottle, beer can, bottle, anything in our house, not in the fridge, never. I never saw my parents drink and anything. I grew up a very church centered household and family, and it was a, you know, a pretty strict type religious upbringing, and I don't remember seeing any of my family drinking any, like extended family. I was never around it. And so I think at the base of that, it just grew in my head that that was bad. There was no gray. It was either you're good because you don't do it, or you're bad because you are. That's just what I knew. And the conversation that my wife and I had, it's probably been 5 years ago or so, was, you know, to me, even after I became a parent, I wrote what I was writing down earlier that I told you I was writing notes. It just kind of came to me as I feel like I have a inner drive to be a an example, just a something that pushes me to be that example. And so that kind of bleeds into this, because as a parent, you know, until I met her and until I kind of started learning other ways, to me, that's how I didn't want that around them, so that they didn't see it. They didn't, you know, they weren't, you know, affected by that. But now that I have changed my kind of perception of it, perspective, I want them to be able to see, hey, dad drank a beer tonight. Mom and dad drunk, you know, a couple glasses of wine, and they're fine. You know, they're not bad people. They do it, they do it responsibly. They do it in a way that isn't bad in any way. It's just it's okay because they know how to do it right. And I don't know if that makes any sense to you at all, but
Oh yeah,
I
it
think
does.
that's
Keep going.
kind of the base of it. And it's funny that, you know, your previous conversation about the cussing and the pasture, that's another thing with me. I'm just not a cusser. And if you sit here and ask me why, I would probably say the same thing. I have some type of weird, and I would almost even say it's ego driven at this point. I'm 43 years old. I feel like, well, I haven't been a cusser to this point. I think I can make it the rest of my life without doing it. You know what I mean? I don't, I just want to be that example. But am I offended by it? Absolutely not. I think it's funny. I almost, I almost wish sometimes that I was a cusser, because, you know, the funniest people nowadays are the people that use that in humor. And it's like, I don't know, it's just a weird mix of things that I'm spouting out here, but it's like almost the first time I've even said anything about it, so I'm sure it's coming out very unorthodox. But do you kind of understand kind of
I get you,
that
man.
mindset?
Yeah. The there is a message that you're giving that may not be to the forefront of what your words are saying. But we said it before, to thine own self be true. Okay. So yeah, maybe that looks cool sometimes, but what, you know, to be able to express yourself that way, but you're here to offer the other side, right? So how many times have you heard about these sports athletes? Oh, they're role models. They're good role models. Isn't that everybody is a role model? Okay. Everybody is a role model. But the important part that you're talking about is you're thinking about your family and how best to be a role model for them. And I think that's a great goal. If I've gone 40 some years without using curse words, I think I go another 40 something without doing it. Is it necessary for me to be able to articulate my point? No. Why don't I do it that way? I just never did it that way.
Yeah.
It was never, I always did it that way. And I did it in the beginning for shock value.
Yeah.
Now that repetition has been so ingrained and the neural pathway has been so developed that it's a default that just pops up every once in a while. Not one that I'm proud of, because it's put me in position to use words like that at times where what it is that I'm trying to convey is very profound and meaningful. And then it's interrupted by a curse word. And people lose the focus and they focus on, oh God, that would have been so powerful had he not used it. And I'm lost. They've lost. I've lost them, and there's value to that. There's a lot of credibility that goes to that. And so I've had to tone it down a lot. And the reason that I've toned it down is because if I want people to take my message, which is about God and about, performance and things like that, then I have to be able to express it in such a way that it doesn't take away from that. And it's the same with my children. So yeah, they're cute when they say that and they're a kid and they use a curse word. Oh, that's so cute because it's so unusual, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those kids end up becoming adults and using the same things, and they get carte blanche and think it's okay and whatnot. And eventually it ends up biting them too. I'm not okay with that. Yeah. I'm not okay with that, because my job as a role model for my family or for the fire service or whatever is to be, Bill Guston used a word that really made me, think about it. He said, "You're an ambassador for the fire service." And I was like, damn, that's good. That one word, right? Because words are powerful. Words are important. That one word gave me a perspective that I was like, how good of an ambassador am I really? And how can I make it better? And while words don't make the man, you're gonna lose an audience. You're gonna lose the power of your sub. Billy Graham never used curse words, unless he was talking about damnation and stuff like that. Billy Graham, probably one of the most influential men, this country has seen, in many ways, and even people that aren't familiar with his teachings and the way that he did things. Incredible man. I look at him as a role model, where the younger me laughed about that. Yeah. I'll be in hell with all my friends, idiot. Who used to play that song, that one verse where I hope I die before I get old. Well, old was 30 years old, at the time when I was listening to that. I'm here, here I am 62. Never thought I'd live to be that old, or have the life that I have.
Yeah.
So I think there's a great deal of value. Like we said before, I think if you take you and I and we combine a message, we stand twice the chance of reaching twice the size of an audience, because both of our paths that have taken us here. And so when you use a broader array, you stand a chance of reaching more people, because it's the message that's important, not the messenger. And we know that, but the messenger is important to be able to get that message out. So how you do it is very powerful, and that'll segue into what you were talking about. You a jerk at home, you a jerk at the firehouse. There's no avoiding it. Yeah. So how do you take performance training and impact the quality of your life at home? Or how do you take a person you are at home and impact the quality of the fire service? It cross-pollinates. One is not mutually exclusive of the other. They are one and the same.
Yeah. And that's what you're talking about right there. That makes it even more of a priority that we should take of telling our stories and helping others, because, like I've already said, we've experienced different things. You have been on the side of addiction, as far as, having to overcome it, having to fight through that, and be sober for 1 year, for 2 years, for 10 years, for 34 years. That's amazing. I have been on the other end of that. I have been the person that has dealt with everything that the addict has brought to me. I didn't choose any of that. I choose to stay with them. That was my choice. And I could very easily say, yeah, that was a dumb choice. I shouldn't have done that. But there are 4 kids in my life right now that
That's right.
I'm pretty sure I would not be okay with being without. So whatever, I'm happy to have gone through all that. But just if that's the only thing out of it, then that's great. But again, the life I have lived, the lessons I have learned, the fights that I have had to fight through on the opposite end of what you have had to fight through. There are people out there on both ends of that needing our stories. There are people that needing to hear your story of fighting for surviving addiction, for making it 30 plus years. Just as many as there are people needing to hear, living with an addict, living with abuse, and whatever else that's brought to it, fighting through that, just needing to know that they aren't alone. And that right there, that is a huge weight. And if you are not using your story to help others, you're probably somebody that's feeling like you can't breathe, because that weight is going to smash you if you don't get it off your chest and off your back.
I think that the people that don't stories stories have always been very, very powerful tools to transmit a message. And it goes back to ancient Sparta, the ancient Greeks. It goes back 850 BC. It probably even goes further back. It's just I don't have the search engine to be able to see how far back it goes. Um, Men or women, it doesn't matter. I just speak from a man's perspective because I am a man. And so men for years, the ancient tradition of sharing your weaknesses and your bouts that you go through, the things that haunt you and stuff, goes way, way back, of men telling another man that, and how they help them to overcome that. This isn't something that's unique to the Catholic Church or to organized religion. I'm a Christian, but I read the Bible. I don't necessarily, I'm not affiliated with any religion. I understand the words that are written in the Bible. I understand the context. Nobody needs to explain that to me. And if I struggle with one area of it, I have men that I know that I can go to that can explain that to me. So when you say that, when it's said that the sun shines on the just and the unjust as the rain falls on the just and the unjust, what that means is that you're going to have struggles, you're going to have trials, you're going to have tribulations, no matter how righteous you are or unrighteous you are, no matter how good you are or how evil you are, it's going to happen. It is part of the human condition. That's what we're on this planet to overcome and to learn from. The storytelling is important. And whether you succumb to the weight of keeping that story and it dies with you, what's important that you understand is that story, your personal story, has a way of impacting people, and you can help people with that story, no matter how good or how bad it is. It's something that's been known for a long, long time, and for some reason, it hasn't translated into our society very well. I mean, some people get picked up on it and some people don't, but the idea that making yourself vulnerable is a way of gaining strength is a foreign concept, to many alpha personalities, because we want to look like strong and in charge all the time. We're not. When I tell you that my divorce was the last straw, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. You think about that. That's a lot of straws. Camels are very, very strong. So that saying alone should require you to look at it and go, the last straw, that one little grain of sand, that one last thing that tilted that scale so far that it broke the back of an animal of burden that carries weight, you know? That's impactful when you understand how that is put together. And so when that happened, what do you do with that? What, do you fall into despair because you've never trusted somebody else with your vulnerabilities? Or do you learn that it's in trusting others with your vulnerabilities that you become stronger? And not only stronger, you become a better example, role model, so to speak. I think that your life that you shared about, I think that makes you a better fireman because you don't quit. You understand that, I have to do this. I have to go through this. I think it's a very good example to be able to say that, yeah, I stayed with somebody that I could have easily turned and run from. And you didn't. Are you frozen, brother? Did I lose you? I think we're stopped for a second here. I'm gonna wait till you come back. It shows it's still recording. So in case this is continuing and I can't get Jeremy back, there he is.
Man, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, brother.
I
You
have no
froze
idea
up,
what
and you froze up. I had that 1,000-yard stare from you. I was like, we lost connection. So what was the last thing you heard? So I can pick it up there. We can splice it in.
About your story, sharing your story carries, and if you decide to share that with others, basically.
Yes. So
does that make any sense?
The story is impactful, and it's been such an ancient tradition because when you have the opportunity to share that with people, and you understand that making yourself vulnerable is how you gather strength, and it also helps empower other people to learn that it's not making yourself vulnerable is not what. I lost you again. This thing's still recording, so I'm gonna keep going. So when you lose when you lose the ability to think that making yourself vulnerable is a bad thing rather than a good thing, there's a problem there, because the value is for your children in teaching them. The value is walking with another person through life who has their struggles, and you can show up. When people say you're my rock, it's not like a I don't know what I would do without you. No, it means that somebody has gone through something with you, and a rock is a sign of stability, of strength, because that stability offers strength. And so you brought that to your relationship. Was it hard? Yeah, but you didn't bail out, making a tough hallway where you're pushed down to the floor, and maybe the wind is going to drive you back into another room, and having another option for being able to attack the fire. That mindset that you've shown in your personal life translates completely to the fire service. You just have to understand how that works. Stories are a very important vehicle to be able to transfer that knowledge and that information. You're going to be the officer of a company. You're going to have men or women that are going to struggle underneath you in their personal lives or on the job. You're the best bartender in the world, man. You're not just going to listen to their problems. You're going to help them find solutions. That's what we do. We show up, we make miracles happen, brother. We take chaos and make order out of it. You know, how that's done on a personal level differs somewhat from how we do it on a fire scene. But on a fire scene, we have a plan. So why would we not have a plan in place for personal life? And what does that plan look like? Well, it takes on a lot of different characteristics. You know, those characteristics can vary from.
You brought something up there that.
Go ahead, bro.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were
No,
done.
it's all right. We got some lag time now with the internet connection.
I know.
Go ahead with what you were saying. That's all right.
Strength. You know, you brought up strength, and I think that is a very interesting combination of words between strength and humility, and I think they're so vital to us making it through those situations, those bad times, those struggles, those fights. You got to have a combination of both. You got to have humility so that you can grow, so that you can learn. But that strength, that is another vital piece of that puzzle. You got to have the strength to do it. And so it's almost like those are two ends of the spectrum. You think about strength, you're thinking about, you know, the pictures of Samson and all that. You think about humility, you think about somebody that's meek and, you know, kind of lowering themselves. But that is such a powerful mix. It's very important.
You know what kept me away from the Bible and believing in God and stuff is because I would read that stuff and I thought it was kind of effeminate, you know, little fairies running around. Oh, turn the other cheek, love everyone and be kind to your enemies. It's like heaping coals of fire on their head and stuff. I thought to myself, no, you punch them right in the damn throat, knock them down, put your foot on their throat, and don't let up until they stop moving. That's how you handle your enemies. What I didn't understand was that the apostles were some of the biggest, toughest men. These were the equivalent of longshoremen. These guys would fish and pull nets. They weren't little men. These are big, old, tough guys, broad shoulders, broad backs, strong arms, pulling nets up, had heart. They did a lot of stuff that was uncharacteristic and in my mind associated with being, feminine or, a beta personality. Well, I couldn't have been further from the truth, and when you read about Abraham, that's a bad man. I looked at these guys and Paul and these guys, and he murdered Christians. What he did.
Yeah.
And his heart was turned, and he in turn, it had nothing to do with his physical strength. It had to do with his spiritual weaknesses. And once he developed those, his life changed. He's still the same tough guy, still capable of doing all that, but he endured greatly for what he believed in, which is what we do.
Yeah.
We endure greatly for what we believe in. It ain't easy to sit in a room and put a fire out or work on a tough door in heat conditions or a tough roof when the engine company's taking a beating below you, or understanding when you're the engine company taking the beating that the truck is, they got a challenge ahead of them because these guys are usually Johnny on the spot with us. There's something's going on. And that is a clue that maybe it's a double roof. Well, we don't think about those kind of things when we face personal challenges. We think of them as like I failed or this and that. We don't know that this is part of a refinement process. This is to develop the man or the woman in their life, and all of it's learning, man. All of it's learning. And if you keep thinking that you comparing yourself to other people, you're missing it. You're missing the lesson. And the lessons are valuable. Yeah. And the story is valuable because if you don't explain the reason that I was able to work in these neighborhoods that were so challenging and so difficult and how we could run overdoses and this and that, the junkies in my zone got tired of seeing me. They'd be like, I freaking Narcan their ass, and they come out of it and they go, oh God, not this guy. Cause I'm going to tell them, man, I thought you were clean. I thought you was going to meetings. Did you call your sponsor? You've been working your steps. Have you been doing all the stuff you're supposed to be? And they're like, damn, you ruined my high and now he's going to get in my head, you know? But they knew me on a first name basis. We'd go shopping. I'd buy 2 sandwiches, you know, I'd buy one for me and one for the guy that was hanging out in front of Publix because I know him, you know? Those lessons are important. I understand what their struggles are like. So I give them what's called dignity that they deserve and some respect. You know, I mean, I understand where they're at. You know, when you've had battles with these kind of things, you can speak with the parents of somebody that's suffering. You know, you can address that, and it brings a humanity to it. These are not things you're going to learn in the fire service. These are life skills. You know, these are life skills. You know, and they have a great value. You know, and it's also in the way that you're going to take care of your people when you become in charge of a company. Because firemen are not, you know, we're exposed to the same elements. It ain't like we're made of Teflon, bing, we're not going to become addicted, bing, we're not going to drink alcohol. We know that's a damn lie. You know, our divorce in the fire service is it's crazy. Just like our suicide rate, you know, just like our addiction and alcoholism, you know. And if we don't have those stories to learn how you overcame it, right? How you stayed and fought, you know, tooth and nail through all the nastiness that addiction brings into a family. And you see the value of what that person is like when they come out on the other side even stronger, how that's going to benefit your children and how that's going to bond your relationship even closer. You know, you don't hear people talk about that. And you have to. You should be hearing about that.
Yeah. So, you know, I mentioned earlier about the details and training and kind of kept calling it that next level of training. I think what you're saying right there kind of brings to mind, you know, the next level of leadership. You know, when you can turn being a leader and helping people be better firefighters and drivers and future officers, when you can turn that into doing that, but also
hey, real quick,
helping them to be
recording?
better people. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. I didn't see it on my side. I just thought I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
It's saying it is. I hope it is. No, you're fine. Okay. But when you can take that and turn it into helping that crew to be better people, as well as better firefighters, better humans, better leaders at home. When you can do that as a leader, that is the next level of leadership right there. That is when it becomes a big deal as a leader.
Yeah, We Are Sparta is not that these guys fought all the time and they were extremely dedicated to their families, extremely loving men with their children and their wives. You know, We Are Sparta is far more than what you see with the guy throwing a spear and taking a ring off some dude's ear and whatnot. No, that's just Hollywood's version. We Are Sparta goes much, much deeper than that. They had virtues and character. That was their foundation. You didn't lie, you didn't cheat, you didn't steal. You know, there was some serious foundation. There was a discipline to that is far beyond anything that our society brings. Yeah. That's why the stories are valuable.
No, and the stories are, you know, I almost wish that I was a better storyteller, because, you know, you meet these people that, you know, I can just think of several at my department that you just enjoy hearing them talk, because they can turn a normal story that, yeah, it's funny or it's good, and just turn it into something really entertaining. You know, the good storytellers, the charismatic type people. And I've kind of always been a little bit jealous of that, because that really brings those lessons out. It helps to spread them. If you're more I don't know what the word is, more entertaining or more kind of getting your point out than just somebody that kind of tells the details and that's it. But that is something I've always kind of thought about.
So, you know, people can look at it as jealousy could be that motivator that says, you know what? I see how this man uses stories to be able to push forward his message. I like that vehicle. I'm going to get better at doing that. Yeah. It's no different than forcible entry or search or anything that you might suck at. You focus harder at the things that we're weak at to develop it into a strength, you know?
Yeah.
At 40 something years old, I had been sober probably a little over a decade at that time. And part of the thing of going through a 12-step program is you're not ashamed to tell your story. Your story is your story, man. That's your qualifier. That's your pedigree. That's your resume. And it's the same way in the fire service. Your story, that's your resume. You're telling them, look, this is what happened to me. You have a very valuable story. You really do.
Yeah.
Those things. And as you get more and more comfortable with sharing intimate details in certain surroundings and under certain circumstances, you'll learn to make the association with what it is that you're trying to drive home. The story in itself is entertaining, and that's all it is entertainment, unless you can make the association with something. And then it becomes a lesson. So, stories are stories. The lessons, they're valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned earlier that the group that you're a part of is kind of steered towards the police, fire, military, first responders, that type field. This is something that I've kind of found interesting, and if I hopefully will get some of these military people on as well at some point, we'll ask them. But it seems like the people that have really done well, the people that have come out of the military and made a name for themselves or done big things, they have had a mission. It's the people that seem to not really have a mission in life or have, again, a purpose in life, are the people that struggle coming out of the military, or you can, across the board, fire service, police, whatever. Is that something that you can kind of maybe put a finger on as well as being a big part of that, either success or struggle, is if they have that mission, if they have that purpose, or if they don't?
Yeah. So I'm careful how I word this. So my purpose in life is to make sure that I use my platforms and my opportunities for good. As a younger man, I exploited the weaknesses in people and took advantage of people. That's what I did. That was part of the job. And I spread, addiction is not, it's not joy. It's not good. It's fucking evil, period. Okay. So when my purpose was to be used as an instrument of good, my purpose was to be of service to who? Well, to my God, and my God wants me to be of service to others. Okay. So it's a servant leadership. All right. What is my mission? My mission is my goal. What is my goal? To be as helpful in every direction that I have been pointed in as possible, whether it's in the fire service, whether it's in alcohol or substance abuse, or in the mental health field, whether it has to do with cancer, whether it has to do with fatherhood or being a husband, or just a friend, a member of my church, a member of my street, my block, my society in general, my city, my state, my county, my country. There are multiple missions, and the mission is the goal. My purpose in life never changes. The mission can often change. The direction can often change, but my purpose, you always stay true to your purpose, and the trick, for lack of a better word, is to find how the direction of your purpose has moved. And because none of these things, listen, PTSD, cancer, drug addiction, alcoholism, womanizing, violence, that's not the way I saw my life playing out. I didn't pick those. I mean, I picked them, but, well, to a certain extent, some of them, but That's not how I didn't expect my life to be a series of Jerry Springer episodes. That's not the way I saw myself growing up. That's not how I saw my future. But I'll tell you what, man, Jerry Springer has done my life pretty well. You know, I mean, my life where it is now and what I've had to go through, I understand it. And I have been blessed to be one of those people that has been able to grasp things such as my daughter being assaulted and that entire nightmare that we went through. There's a lot of things that led up to our divorce, and a lot of things that have led up to the marriage of my second wife, and a lot of things that my wife and I, my current wife and I, have gone through. And the one purpose has always been to move forward and work through our problems. Have there been some really close times where it's like, that's it, I'm throwing a grenade on this, we're done, you know? Yeah. But the message has always stayed true, right? If you don't listen to your own story and mine out the lessons of it, you are doomed to repeat the same patterns over and over again. Some things have to change. How do they change? Well, you stop being such a baby that you think that your vulnerabilities scare you. You don't want to share them with somebody. It's embarrassing. Get over it, man. You know, life takes on a much bigger meaning when you do that. When people, you know, I got a guy at work that one of the clinicians, they call him, one of the guys nicknamed him Dr. Fauci, you know, and because when he wears a mask, I don't know, somehow these guys think there's a resemblance, and it's not meant in a nice way, you know. And so I grabbed the guy and I told him, I said, you know about the nickname? He goes, yeah. I said, you know what I think you do? From now on, you wear a little piece of tape on there that says doctor. You don't have to include the name Fauci. So when they say Dr. Fauci, say, no, excuse me. You can just call me doctor. He's not a doctor, but I said, play into it. It's like the firehouse, right? When you're doing the dishes and you're not complaining and you actually first one up and you start doing the dishes and stuff, guess what, rookie? You're going to find other men helping you because they know you got the lesson. They know you understand. They know you're one of them. When you embrace the harassments to a certain extent, when you embrace it, you know, guys will go, you know, this guy's all right, man. He rolls with it. You know, he's cool. And they actually listen to what you got to say, right? But being able to be that guy that's learned how to incorporate, how to do that, and then help others do the same thing, now you become a change agent. Now your purpose, your direction, your mission, all of those things have come to fruition. You know, you got nothing to be scared of, bro. You got nothing to be scared. Think about this. If somebody else would have done to you the things that you think about yourself, you'd have to kill them, man. You'd have to kill them. If somebody else would have done to you the things that you've thought or done to yourself on your own volition, you'd have to kill them. Yep. But we do it to ourselves, you know? So I think that those messages resonate. I think they're important, you know, throughout the fire service, throughout your personal life, because, you know, the fire service doesn't define who you are. You ain't a fireman. You're not a fireman. That's just your job. It's your career, whatever, however you want to paint that. Okay. There will come a time, there will come a day where you will no longer be that man. You will be slow. You will be old. You will be brittle. You will not be able to do that job anymore. Now what? You've tied your whole life up into this is who I am, and now you're not that anymore. What then? Boom. That's what's next. Don't fall for that. This is it's just a transitional phase. We go through multiple transitional phases throughout our life. And that's part of life, man. You know, sometimes it means you're not with the person you started off with and you change partners. Sometimes you're in control of that. Sometimes you're not in control of that. You know, which brings up an interesting concept, which is control. You know, most of the guys that are in the rehab that I work with, they do really, really well on the job because the job is very structured. When they come off and their days off and there ain't no structure, whoo, things have a tendency of going real sideways real quick. I've earned the right to be able to drink and to do this and to do that. I've earned the right to be a jerk. You know, I come home, I got to hear my wife talk about how the kids have been and this and that. And all I want to say is, do you have any idea what it was like my shift when I had to pull these kids out of this fire and their skin's coming off on my gloves? Do you know what that smells like? Do you know how long I've got to live with that smell in my nostrils till eventually it goes away? That's my old thinking. But that's not what you bring home. You're supposed to bring home tolerance and patience and love. But when you can't control or have no idea of how to be able to capture that and prepare for that storm when you come home, the foundation that's going to be revealed is going to be an embarrassment, because you should prepare for that before you come home. This is what it looks like. To use the same example, you've had a really horrific shift and you come home and you tell the wife, I need some time. Failure. You know what? When you're doing okay and you and her can talk and you're both in the same place emotionally and mentally, that's when you bring it up. Honey, there's going to be a time where you're going to have a really tough time with all four of these kids. And I'm going to come home and I am going to have faced some really horrific stuff. And I want us to prepare now for that storm. I'm going to need some time because I will not have slept. And because I will not have slept, I can't process my emotions properly. And as a result, my reaction is going to be overreactive as opposed to being somebody that can relate and be compassionate with you. Okay. So I just need some time to reset. And I promise you, I will give you a break from these four little kids. But I have to reset first. We have to work as a team. And there's going to be times where I'm going to be refreshed and I'm going to come home and you're going to be the one that's been under the storm, you know, and I'm going to have to be able to be prepared mentally and make that shift and say, okay, I'm going to take the kids and give you a break. And it may stretch you a little bit further, but she's already been stretched as far as she can go, you know? And remember, she got the support of a company to help her with these kids, you know, or your husband, whoever, whatever the case may be. It might be a woman in the fire service goes home to her husband who's a stay-at-home dad, right? You know, so they don't have the support of a company. They don't have people to share the burden with them and, you know, CIS, you know, or peer support or, you know, EAP or any of that crap. They don't have that. They don't have that. You got to understand that going into it, you know, so that this is the discussion that takes place before the storm, so that when the storm comes, all she got to do is take one look at you and go to sleep, go to the gym first, come home, take a shower, take a nap, wake up. We'll all rejoin and whatever back, you know, then, you know, I'm going to take the kids to the to the park, and we're going to be okay, you know, but that's the plan. I mean, we have them at work, but these men that I deal with don't have this plan. They don't have this structure. It's never occurred to them to do that. And quite frankly, it never occurred to me either. I had to be taught the same things, you know, and how to implement that. And it ain't a one and done. It ain't a YouTube video, you know, this is something you work at, and you're going to suck at it in the beginning, just like being a fireman, until you do enough reps that you get good at it, you know?
Yeah, that's just, it leads back to, you know, something you said earlier about the storm isn't the time to build that foundation. It's before. And that's, you know, there's so many different areas you can use that in life and on the job, everywhere. And that is a big one. You know, our family is and should be the most important thing of our life. If we lose our job tomorrow, we still need to have that family. That family is going to be there way after we are firefighters. Like you said, you know, if you put everything into being a firefighter, it's setting you up to be in a bad place. That family has got to be a priority. And
our
legacy
should be how well we prepared our children for when we're gone. You know, or most of us like, oh, well, I've left them a small fortune, house, I've set them up, I gave them an education. Great. Those are responsibilities. Teach them how to show up for their life. Teach them how to avoid the pitfalls that you've stepped into. And it's going to take time. it's going to take time, because you know what? I prepared my kids as best as possible, and now they're going to step on those landmines, and I'm going to be here to help them navigate their water through that. And that's valuable. That's valuable, because they, you know, we don't own these kids. We just we get to mold them. And then at some point they're going to fly on their own, you know, and that's where the lessons are going to come into fruition. And they're going to, that's when things, you know, that's when they come together. You know, that's when the glue starts to adhere and the lessons start to take place. That's important, man. You got the perspective of understanding how big of a picture that is going to take you in a good direction to help you develop these foundations. It's like Colin Powell said, you know, good leaders learn to see around the corner. Learn to see around the corner of your relationship. Learn what those storms look like. Prepare the foundations ahead of time, so when they come and they're revealed, you already have a plan in place. We do that in the fire service. Make sure you do that for your family, you know? Yep. And it's for every occurrence, you know? I mean, Jeremy, man, you've been exposed to some things. You've had the distinct, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not pleasure, the opportunity to have been exposed to some things that are not so good, but it has revealed things about life and the preparation for certain things that most people get caught flat-footed with. Yeah. You know, a smack in the face is never a good thing to experience, but to prepare for it again is always, you know, a good thing.
Yeah, it's you know, just kind of, I guess, kind of trying to wrap it up here to kind of put a bow on things. Something you said a little bit ago was the directions have changed with you, the purpose hasn't, and that's kind of, that brought a thought to me is my personal kind of journey here the past year, and I've said it several times on here, but you know, I am not the personality of person to be sitting here hosting a podcast. It's just not me. But being a person that puts a lot into faith, that, you know, faith is very important to me. This is something that I was pushed to do. There's no other way I can explain it. I was pushed to do this. You know, there was something in me that told me this is something you need to try, even though it doesn't feel comfortable. This is something you need to try. And so that is why I'm sitting here with you today. And I just wanted to kind of point out, and I try to do this pretty often, that if you're out there listening and you are feeling that, if you're feeling a push towards something, if there's something in you saying, you really need to do this, you really need to share your story, you really need to write that book or that article, you have to do it. Just find that strength and do it, because you have no idea the amount of help you can give if you do that. And that, you know, something is interesting, and I'll let you kind of wrap it up and then say whatever you want to say as well. But some kind of a thought that came to me a few weeks ago is a dandelion. You know what a dandelion is, right? The thing that the kids blow and all the seeds go everywhere. I feel like that dandelion is our story, is our, you know, our lessons. Everything that we have is that. And we can sit there and hold that dandelion and it doesn't do anything. But if we blow it, if we share that message, and you just never know where those seeds are going to go. You don't, you know, and you add a social media platform that goes literally across the world, there you have no idea the impact that you can have. And so it is so important to share that with as many people that I can, to step up, to get out of your comfort zone, to be the person that you were put here to be, and to do the things you were put here to do. And so I'll let you take over and close it out however you want to do it. Say anything else that you're wanting to say, but that's just a thought of mine.
So I like what you were talking about the podcast thing. And it's not being in the position of the podcast, it's the message of the podcast. That's the important thing. The message is, and it's the same way with the way that you walk through your life. You use the dandelion. I use a rock in a puddle. or a rock in a lake, it makes its impact, and then the effects of it are felt all the way across the lake. You may not be able to see it, but those effects continue even under the surface of the water. And that can be used for good or it can be used for bad. I have been, for the last 6 months, putting together a podcast to start interviewing other men that have had similar struggles to me, and then doing performance segments also, and implementing that. And so I got off Facebook. It was actually a year ago. I got off Facebook because I was completely shocked by the number of, I couldn't accept more friends, and I had all these followers. I'm like, what? Do you people have any idea what kind of a man I am? I wouldn't be following me, but it's the message. And so it took a period of time for that to ferment. And I realized I was speaking to a guy who's an FBI agent, and he does podcasts, and he's also very similar struggles to us. And he said, Rick, what you do is you take, because it's on deactivate, and he says you develop the podcast, you change from your name to the podcast name and whatever. And so when you drop episodes once a week or something, you have that reach, you have that foundation. He says, because it takes a while to develop it. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. He says, well, why are these people drawn to you in the first place? And I was like, okay, good point. I get it. It's the message. And and since then, there's been a refinement process before we've even been able to put one podcast out. And I've just made some more changes to it. So it's like an always evolving thing. And it's not me. So we want to put it into two formats. One is an MP4 where you can actually see the webcast, and the other one is an MP3 where you can just hear it. And we have some different aspects to it. So it's going to be, instead of a long one, it's going to be short segments. So people can hear it while they're driving, 20, 30-minute segment. There might be some that are a little bit longer. Some will be about life challenges. Some will be about substance abuse. Some are about mental health. Some will be about performance. We'll be discussing our book and how to implement certain things. So we'll show video clips of how to utilize certain parts of the book and implement it. We'll show through example, because we want that message to get out there further. Because what you're doing is vitally important, but more importantly, it's going to take a small army of people like us to change the culture and to get the message out there. And because somewhere even within our country, there are people that have no idea what it is we're talking about. And those are the people that we want to affect. There's a saying that, long is the road, short is the life. And the more people that we can incorporate in this is how we make an impact on people in general, not just our culture, our society, the fire service and whatnot, but on our families, on the futures of people, and how we can impact the way that they show up for their life, which is so important. Ain't about Ric Jorge. Ain't got nothing to do with Ric Jorge. Ric Jorge is dead a long, long time ago. It is the message that follows that's important. And when I'm dead and gone, there'll be somebody else doing this. When Joe Rogan is gone, somebody else will be doing what Joe Rogan is doing. But to have had a hand in that it's just an honor. What an honor to have been allowed to be a part of something like that. That's the main thing. So with that, listen, thank you very much for having me on here, Jeremy. It's been wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And you need anything, reach out to me, man. You got my number, you got my contact info. I'm not hard to find.
Appreciate that. Before you go, you got anything else any classes, any plugs that you want to put out there? Anything coming up?
Yeah, we're doing a thing in Orlando. It's a command and control, and we're combining the incident command and overwhelming them so that they can see and how to implement these same tools from an incident command position. Like when things start to go south, you get a mayday, you got units that are being held up, all kinds of other things. And so we've actually gotten a good group of guys with Jerry Tracy, Dave McGrail, Walt Lewis has been instrumental in putting this all together. Scott Chappelle, my man from Ohio. Oh God, he's going to kill me. Jerry Krause, I believe it's Jerry Krause, and he is him and Walt have been the two that have been putting this together. You know, those guys, they're just like, I'm sorry, God, I can't believe I called him Jerry. It's Jerry Tracy. It's Robert Krause. Robert Krause out of Ohio. I apologize, Bob. Those two guys have been instrumental in putting that together. And then the next class that we've got, because Florida and Georgia seem to be the only two people that are putting hands-on training together, we'll be doing some classes locally here that'll be opened up to anybody. But the next one would be the Atlanta Fire Conference, MAFC, the Metro Atlanta Firefighter Conference. We'll be doing our 24-hour class there. It runs 24 hours straight. We'll be getting a lot of the techniques. We'll have some great instructors from your state as well. Will be there. We got a couple of them that are very good. Alejandro Rangel and Haskins, Eric Haskins, and there's another guy from your area also. But they're coming from all over. They'll be coming from Seattle. They'll be coming from everywhere. And we've got some top-notch instructors, great guys, salt of the earth, be able to help you with whatever you need help with. I'm really proud of our cadre in that aspect. Very humble, very smart, very intelligent, high energy guys. Very, very good, very understanding. They're very intuitive. They can recognize when the problems are coming up. It's really good. But that's about the extent of the classes. This whole virus thing has kind of put a kibosh on a lot of things. But you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on LinkedIn. Tactical Resiliency Training is our page on Facebook. You can find my emails and stuff and my phone number and stuff through that. I'm not hard to find. You've got the contact info. Feel free to go ahead and share it with whoever, whenever. So, yeah, that's about it, man.
All right. Sounds good. Again, I appreciate you devoting so much of your time today to me and to us, everybody listening. And thank you so much for sharing your story and everything else that you're doing for the fire service. So very much
my
appreciated.
honor, my pleasure.
All right.
Thank you for having me, brother.
You're welcome. So until next time, thank you for spending some time with us today, and we'll see you next episode. Until then, stay humble and do work. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the second part of our conversation with Ric Jorge. I am truly amazed at how many people have reached out to me just in the past week since releasing his first part of that conversation, of just saying how great of a person he is. People that have met him, people that know him. It's truly amazing to hear somebody's story like his story when he was younger, the things he went through, and to hear what he has turned that into, who he has become now, and very inspiring. I am truly blessed and honored that I had the chance to talk with him and get to know him a little bit. I hope you enjoyed it, even a fraction of what I got out of it and enjoyed. So I want to, before I leave, thank Woods Force Entry Door Kit for all they do. Thanks for sponsoring the program and allowing us to put this content out. I also want to please suggest that you go check out my new project. It's called the Underground Leadership Movement. I am truly, truly passionate about this. This is going to be something that I hope is going to be a big deal because it is very needed. It's basically we are building the fire service up one leader at a time, and we're doing it from the ground up. It's for all those people out there that don't have formal programs at their department of professional development, leadership development, just anything like that. That's who we're there for, and we're banding together to make the fire service better, one leader at a time. So go check that out. Right now, it's only on our YouTube channel. So go to YouTube, search for Crew First Culture, and you'll find the first two episodes on there. We will probably be putting it out on this podcast platform at some point, just so it's easier for people to get to. So thank you. Thank you for your time. I hope that you really got a lot out of Ric Jorge. He is a great, great guy. If you ever have the chance to take any of his classes, don't miss that opportunity. So thank you very much. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Take care of each other. Thank you.